Welcome to the performance here today. This again, like I told you, is going to be kind of a novel, unique, I think, presentation. I don't want to give a whole lot of information or background right now. After the performance, we're going to have time to have reactions, talk about some things, open up some conversation, and chat with the actors if you want to direct some questions to them. So if you'll take a moment to look at your technology or make sure it's on silent or turned off, that would be lovely. This is being video recorded. If there's anybody who wants to opt out of video or photography, let us know, and we'll make sure that we put you like in the corner or something like that. We'll take care of that, okay? If you don't want to be associated with this, I totally get it, okay? So what you're going to hear, or what you're going to see, is a performance called Hear Me. It's a healthcare play written by a very famous playwright in Australia, Alan Hopgood, in conjunction with Dr. Kath Kroc, who's one of the co-writers. It's performed by the Bloomsburg Theatre Ensemble, directed by Nicole Devon, co-directed by Sandy, I wish I could say your last name. I think that's all we probably need to get started. Is there anything else you need or would ask? Good to go? All right. Stage two.
Dr. Melbourne, thank you very much for coming in. I asked you in today because I'm looking into a case that happened in your department this week. I'm referring to the mismedication of a young female patient who unfortunately died. Can you tell me more about what happened?
Sure. Well, as you know, I wasn't on duty that day, so I'm relying on information provided by my colleagues, but I was led to conclude that the wrong dose of medication was given to the patient through her intravenous drip.
And?
Well, it appears the patient's physician prescribed potassium to be added to the drip.
And that physician was Dr. Henty?
Correct.
So who administered the medication?
Yeah, the nurse who hung the drip, Joanna Cromwell. But I understand Dr. Henty left it to Dr. Barbara Sims to make the right calculation.
Which is where the mistake happened?
It seems so.
And Dr. Sims is a resident?
Correct.
So how did the miscalculation happen?
Well, it seems that the prescription written by Dr. Henty was unclear. Dr. Sims may have misunderstood it and given the nurse the wrong dose to administer. The overdose caused heart problems, which led to the patient's death.
Well, didn't Dr. Sims think that the prescription was unusual?
No, the nurse did.
And so did the nurse at any time suggest to Dr. Sims that the dose might be wrong?
Yeah, she questioned it.
Well, then did Dr. Sims go to Dr. Henty to check the dose, seeing as he is the doctor in charge and her attending?
Yeah, she said she tried, but she couldn't get a hold of him.
Well, did Dr. Sims check with anyone else?
Apparently not. Even though the nurse questioned it, Dr. Sims told the nurse to go ahead and run the intravenous line as prepared by Dr. Henty.
Even though the nurse questioned it?
The nurse probably felt she couldn't disobey an order from a doctor. She didn't want to escalate the matter and go to the unit nurse manager. That would have been embarrassing for Dr. Sims as a resident, and, well, it just would have put everybody in a difficult position.
Not forgetting the patient.
Indeed.
So Dr. Sims didn't check the prescription with Dr. Henty because he could not be found.
Yep.
Well, it just so happens I checked, and he was on duty at the time. So now can you tell me why Dr. Sims didn't make more of an effort to check on this and to find him?
Look, I'm sorry. No. Perhaps I should tell you what Dr. Sims really said. She said she didn't approach Dr. Henty because she knew he was dealing with another difficult case at the time, and she felt apprehensive about interrupting him.
Another difficult case? Well, do you think that might have affected Dr. Henty's decision-making and leading to an imprecise prescription?
No, I'm not prepared to suggest that. This is just one of those difficult cases where a number of problems coming together at once can cause a disaster. I just don't know enough about it.
Okay, all right. So here we have a potential problem with Dr. Henty's prescribing, Sims miscalculating, misreading the dose and not checking with anyone, ignoring the unit nurse, and not reporting the incident, thus removing any chance of the problem being reversed. Well, what did Dr. Henty say when he heard this?
I'm afraid I can't repeat that in present company.
Oh, well, that's all right. I can imagine what he said.
He said he wanted to find Dr. Sims, but he couldn't find her. Apparently, she called in sick when she heard about the death.
Well, someone needs to go and check on her to see if she's okay. Do we have some way to do that?
Yeah, I can do that.
Incidentally, what's your opinion of Dr. Sims?
Dr. Sims is an excellent doctor.
Apart from this incident?
Yeah.
Was this the only incident?
There have been others.
Under the direction of Dr. Henty.
He seems to have had a couple of, supervision events lately where he's been difficult to find. I know he's got a lot on his plate.
Well, I heard from the complaints department that it was the mother who was the first to notice the decline in the patient, her daughter. It was the mother who allegedly reached out to many nurses, and she was not listened to. The mother approached Dr. Henty, and he didn't listen to her either. It also, she claims, and the complaint says, that she overheard Dr. Henty telling his staff that she needed to be managed. So whatever, there's going to be a formal investigation, and questions will be asked.
Well, Dr. Henty will not be happy about that.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, there are now too many people that need and deserve answers. Please go and check on Dr. Sims.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi, James.
Are you okay?
No, I can't take it anymore. Nothing I do is good enough for Dr. Henty. His constant humiliation of me and repeated interrogation in front of others, I just feel so anxious. I freeze, I lose confidence in my decision making, and instead of learning from him, I spend half of my time trying to avoid him.
He really doesn't seem that bad to me.
Oh, he's too clever for that. He picks his targets.
Look, is that why you didn't check the dose with him? Because you felt intimidated?
Yes. I mean, he questioned me in front of others over a previous error that I made. And then in private, he told me he's a well-connected man. And that if I decided to leave the hospital, he'd make it difficult for me to find a position elsewhere. And so I've decided that I'm going to go overseas.
What? Wait a minute. Look, Barbara, that is such a drastic step. Can't you just ride this thing out?
A patient is dead because of me.
But we haven't even had the formal investigation. How do you know that Dr. Henty didn't write the wrong dose on the prescription?
I don't. I mean, he scribbled it as he went off to another patient. I remember I looked at it, but I couldn't couldn't quite make out the handwriting. And then when a nurse asked me about it, I thought, well, I don't know, is she right? Does she know more than I do? And then imagine if I told Dr. Henty. God, he'd make me feel so stupid. Oh, so a nurse knows more than you. Who's surprised by that? But it's not just that. Ever since I've made a few errors, the physicians started treating me with a lack of trust. And my own colleagues won't be seen with me for fear of being painted with the same brush. And can you blame them? I mean, even the nurses behave differently toward me. I just decided I'm not going to take my boards and I'm going to go overseas. Right now, I can't face anyone or anything except you. But I'm sorry, James. Even you can't keep me here.
Dr. Henty, good morning. How are you?
Hi, Mary. Yeah, good. A bit exhausted. A lot going on. It's been a hectic couple of months.
Oh, like what's going on?
Like the usual, running the department. But I don't have to tell you that. Oh, and I'm preparing another grant submission for the program.
Well, that's interesting.
Yes, it is. I'm struggling to finish it right now, but we'll get there. You need sleep.
Can we talk for a moment?
Of course. I didn't imagine you called for this meeting to hear about my insomnia.
On a serious note, a young female patient died in your department this week.
Yes. Very sad. Always is, of course. We tried to save her, but too late. Dr. Sims is so distraught, she's been off sick since.
This patient was one of yours?
I believe she was. Dr. Sims was looking after her at the time, but I was around if she needed me.
Well, there'll be a formal investigation and questions will be asked.
Of course.
I have a copy of the patient's medical record here. Is this your prescription?
Yes, that's my signature.
Dr. Sims read this incorrectly?
Apparently, she did not check it with me.
Well, imagine this is someone else's handwriting. Could you read it?
Well, of course. We're all trained to deal with medical hieroglyphics.
But maybe not everyone can. And so what if someone misreads this handwriting and orders an incorrect dose of medication, which in this case proved fatal?
I would say that is tragic. And if my handwriting was inadvertently the cause of the misunderstanding, I apologize. But I have no idea why Dr. Sims did not contact me.
Well, I was told that Dr. Sims was reluctant to question your prescription because she feels intimidated by you. Would it be true to say that most of your staff are frightened of you?
Frightened? When I'm in full flight, I scare myself sometimes. That was a joke. It would disappoint me to learn that, but regretfully, it would not astonish me. I set very high standards, and not everyone is able to meet them. Disappointment often mutates into resentment, anger, bitterness. Sadly, I have known some of my staff to resent my being a perfectionist. That is the clinical standard.
Yes, but that clinical standard can be counterproductive if it prevents your staff from questioning aspects of care for fear of your reaction.
How can I prevent their fears?
By being aware of their vulnerabilities.
That way, clinical standards can only fall. We are talking about one unfortunate death. Relax those standards, we'll be talking about many more.
But this isn't just about clinical standards. If your staff, they cannot provide appropriate patient care if they don't feel safe to speak up, even if it might be to own up to a mistake.
Well, if you want to feel safe, as you say, don't make mistakes. They will get my trust and care when they earn it. If Dr. Sims, who I assume we are discussing, was afraid of me, so she should be. Making an elementary mistake like that.
And it is that response that probably led her to not approach you.
Be that as it may, I tried to contact her to discuss this matter, but apparently she's left the hospital.
And the profession. She's resigned. She's moving overseas.
It's a tough profession. Many are called, not all succeed.
Who we have not mentioned is the mother of the deceased. A mother who, I gather, approached you. She said she was concerned about the deterioration of her daughter, but you paid no notice. So you cannot lay all the responsibility at the feet of the resident who apparently made this mistake.
I don't think it's a question of responsibility. It was an unfortunate event which you are suggesting yourself arose out of a misunderstanding. Blame me for bad handwriting, blame a resident for not being able to decipher it, but that is surely where it ends.
Robert, don't you feel we should take at least some responsibility for what happened?
And admit fault to the mother? No way. Not in my hospital. We audit these matters in private. Do you want her to sue us?
I'm afraid that if we don't meet with the mother, she will sue us. I understand we used to tell clinicians not to admit to any error, but now if we approach the patient or the parent in this case, explain what happened, say we're sorry, many of these lawsuits would disappear.
I don't make mistakes.
Well, you're still involved, whether you like it or not, because your resident was too intimidated to report the incident. I understand, I realize that you're reluctant to admit to any error to protect your department.
My department is working fine. Thank you.
Well, I expect you to attend the meeting with the mother. You can debate this with her, but I expect you to attend the meeting with her tomorrow.
Before we had this meeting, I spoke to my lawyer, and he advised against any kind of disclosure at this stage. So I might be there tomorrow. I might not. I'll think about it.
Mrs. Bryant, good morning, how are you? I'm Mary. This meeting is called Open Disclosure, and Dr. James Melbourne will be joining us shortly, but I want to hear from you and your point of view what happened to your daughter, and you can stop, take a break anytime you wish, please.
Well, that day, Lily had a severe stomach ache. She was shaking, vomiting, had cramps. It was terrible. She couldn't get out of bed, and nothing that I could do seemed to help her. It seemed like it came totally out of the blue.
And How old is your daughter? How old was your daughter?
18. So, by the time the vomiting got really bad, it was after hours, so I couldn't take her into the doctor. And when it wouldn't stop, I became worried that she'd become dehydrated, so I took her into the ER. They said that it wasn't her appendix, and when they asked her if she was pregnant, she said no, so they admitted her and said that she would be put on an IV to keep her hydrated.
And did they?
They must have, because that is what killed her.
Well, we should be careful at this point not to speculate.
I did not see what happened with the IV because I was so tired. By that time, it was 3 a.m., so when they said that there was a bed for parents, I thought, Lily's in good hands. There's nothing more I could do, so I fell asleep.
And then what happened?
As soon as I woke up, I went straight in to see how Lily was doing, and she looked strange, completely unlike herself. I called to the nurse. Something's wrong, Lily looks different. But she just told me to relax, that Lily was sleeping peacefully and that that's what I should do too. I wanted to see the doctor, but she said that I'd have to wait until he came on duty, that she was going off herself too, and that I'd have to wait for the change in shift. But look at my daughter, I said, something is wrong. She's not just sleeping peacefully. She was not responding to me at all. I leaned over and picked up Lily's hand. It was limp. It felt cold. But the nurse insisted that she was just in a deep sleep. You are disturbing the rest of the unit, she kept saying. I did not care about the rest of the unit. Who cared about the rest of the unit? I needed her to get me someone who would help Lily. At that point, yes, Dr. Henty entered, and as soon as he went over and spoke with her, he then came straight over to me, and he did not look happy. He spoke to me as if I was a child. Now, Mrs. Bryant, I understand how you feel, but please relax so that we can continue with our work. On his way out, I heard him say to the nurses that I was being a difficult mother. I could not help it. I rushed after him. I don't care if I'm being difficult, I said. I am a mother and I know my daughter. I knew that something was wrong, that she could be dying. I was so exhausted by that point, I could not argue anymore. He left, and I went back in to sit with Lily. I sat there holding her hand. I remember her breathing getting slower and slower. I could just feel the life slipping away from her. At that point, the monitors they suddenly started going haywire, and I called for the nurse and people just started doing stuff. The nurse rushed away. She came back with an ER team saying, "Oh, Dr. Henty, where is he? Why can we never find him when we need him?" I was grabbed by the arm and taken into the other room because I was screaming. I knew that my daughter was dying.
Mrs. Bryant, this is Dr. James Melbourne.
Hello.
so sorry about your loss.
My Lily was such an amazing person. So kind. I miss her so much.
Mrs. Bryant, I am so sorry to have to ask you this question, but did you know that your daughter was pregnant?
What?
We have the pathologist report here that shows that your daughter, Lily, was 8 weeks pregnant.
Oh my God.
Mrs. Bryant, I'm sorry.
If only I had not brought her to this hospital. If only I just let her be sick, then maybe she would be dehydrated, but she would still be alive. If only I had waited until the next day, then
Mrs. Bryant.
we would have figured out that she was pregnant, and that's why she was vomiting that much. This means that not only did this hospital kill my daughter, but it killed her baby too.
Doctor, will you please get her some water?
All right, I don't want water. I want justice. I want... God, I don't know what I want.
It's okay. It's all right. We have a room where you can be alone. Let's just not think about any of this today, okay? Let's just gather ourselves together.
I'll get you some tissues.
Dr. Henty.
Oh. I had the delightful thought that the meeting might have been canceled because the matter had been settled.
Far from it, Dr. Henty. Have a seat. We have the pathologist's report. It states that Lily Bryant was 8 weeks pregnant. Her mother didn't know, and her mother is convinced that Lily didn't know either.
Well, these things happen. Well, the young woman was vomiting for whatever reason, pregnant or otherwise.
Yeah. We didn't know that the vomiting was caused by the pregnancy, as the patient didn't survive long enough for that to be ascertained. She didn't survive the initial treatment.
Which resulted from a medication error. We've been through all that.
But what we haven't ascertained is what led up to the medication error.
And we've been through all that too.
Yes, but have we been through the intimidation that Dr. Sims suffered at your hands that might have led to the medication error?
Remember your place, doctor. That's a very serious allegation.
Yes, one which I am prepared to make. I put it to you that there are some investigations that need to be carried out. One, to satisfy Mrs. Bryant upon the loss of her daughter, and two, to investigate your treatment of your staff.
Mary, are you going to allow this behavior? I remind you, not only am I senior to Dr. James Melbourne, but a member of the Research Foundation of this hospital.
Oh, just when I thought this day couldn't get worse.
Mrs. Bryant, this is Dr. Henty. I believe the two of you have met.
Briefly.
Too briefly.
I had asked Mrs. Bryant in to discuss how she'd like to proceed after the unfortunate death of her daughter. But we've all been shocked by the news of the pathologist's report saying that Lily was pregnant. So, Mrs. Bryant, perhaps you'd like to come back another day and we can resume.
No, that's all right. Now that I have him here, I'd like to ask him a thing or two.
Perhaps we could find a more appropriate time. I know you've just had another shock, and maybe you would like some
and
time.
kind you are now, Doctor. But you weren't when I asked you to take care of my dying daughter. I told you that something was wrong, that she could be dying, but you blew me off. And while we wasted time arguing, something could have been done
That is
to
a matter.
save her.
That is a matter for conjecture.
He is twisting the facts to save himself, to protect himself. You think that you can just make this go away, but you can't. My daughter is dead. I am going to sue this hospital. And I am going to sue you, Dr. Henty. I am going to sue him for everything he has ever worked for. I was told that I could sue the hospital for a lot of money. But what's money if the system can go on harming people and taking our loved ones away? Money wasn't going to bring Lily back. And I needed something good to come from her death so that she didn't just die in vain. So, after a lot of reflection, I decided instead to make an agreement with the hospital. I told them that I wouldn't sue them if they guaranteed to improve communication within their system. I needed to get across to Dr. Henty that it's not all about him, that he needs to be part of a team, that all doctors need to listen to nurses, staff, patients, families, that without the input of families and patients, some of the most valuable resources are being ignored.
Mrs. Bryant. It's good to see you. It's been 10 months since our settlement. And we were thinking we'd like to invite you in so that you can hear some of the changes that we're planning to introduce. Dr. Melbourne, perhaps you'd like to begin?
Sure. Well, if something goes wrong, as happened with Lily, it is now acknowledged, and all the details are made known to the patient and families within 48 hours.
Open disclosure.
Yep, all the information, good and bad.
Okay.
And every patient, every family has a story, and sometimes they're not heard because of time constraints.
Yes, urgency of treatment.
Yeah. And those stories need to be told.
It often is part of the treatment and healing process.
So what we've done is we've arranged a panel to listen to those stories, unhurried, without interruption, and concerns may be expressed and will be acted on.
Wow. And I was forward enough to ask my boss, the CEO, how often she visits the units to see how things are progressing.
And this boss, the CEO, I confess, very rarely.
And now she makes regular visits.
Yeah, as well as other members of the board.
And I didn't lose my job.
And also, there on that board, there are other family members that are part of it, and we would love it if you would join.
Thank you.
Yeah. And here's the most important part. We're already noticing a change in our staff. Just the other day, we had a nurse resident. She noticed that a blood sample had been labeled incorrectly, and she felt confident enough to go to her senior attending to point out the problem. She averted a potentially serious error.
And as for Dr. Henty,
Dr. Henty, your behavior in this matter has led us to believe that you need to be supervised. You need to attend a professionalism and peer support program, and you lose all privileges of supervising residents. Under the given circumstances, I'm sure you could have imagined a worse outcome. Dr. Henty, do you have any comment?
Yes, I have a comment. I resign. I will go to another hospital where I can work without having to look over my shoulder. Do you honestly expect me, at my age and after all of my years of experience, to submit to supervision and a peer support group? Peer support? They're all young enough to be my children, for God's sake. No, I'm going. But before I go, let me say this. Do I feel guilty? Yes, of course I do. I am not so hard-hearted that I cannot share some of the responsibility in the death of a young woman and her baby. I might be leaving this hospital, but I'm not leaving the profession, as did Dr. Sims. This profession cannot afford to lose doctors. So I will continue to work. And wherever I am, I won't think about Lily as I start work each day. I can't afford to. I will shut the door on yesterday.
He's right. Of course. He can go and practice somewhere else. It's going to take time to change. The Dr. Hentys in this world, they're ingrained in the system, but we have to start somewhere.
Change will come if we acknowledge the need for it.
And if it took the death of my daughter to speed that up, then her life will have had an even greater impact. And finally, somebody heard me.
My name is Danny Roth. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm Andy.
So well. Yes. And this is Dr. James Melbourne.
Andy, you're the tech guy.
Mrs. Bryant.
Hi, I'm Kaylee Quinn.
And Mary, the CEO.
Hi, everyone. My name is Samantha Norton.
And over here is the assistant director who also did the music.
And our director and poor
Barbara.
Dr. Sims. I don't even know what country you went to.
Yes, that's true. I didn't tell them. I'm Nicole Duff.